novel is about a 26-year-old singer-songwriter named Felicity, who she lives in an Ocean City resort town. And it takes place during the winter in the 1990s. And her, she does play lounge piano. She plays some jazz standards in a piano bar. But what she really wants to do is record her own demo of her own songs, because she wants to get a record deal. But her biggest challenge to do that is because Ocean City is a beach town, and in the winter everybody goes home and it's very deserted, and she, so she's not making a lot of money in the winter, and she can't afford to make this demo that she wants to do. The novel is about her struggle in trying to make this demo and trying to keep herself out of depression in this deserted resort town. I was a music student at Berklee College of Music, and I met one of my friends for life, Lauren Glick, there. She's a singer-songwriter, and after college we had this conversation because she decided to return back to her hometown of Ocean City and from Boston, and she was telling me one day that she too was playing, just similar to Felicity, she was playing cover songs in these bars and hotels in Ocean City. And she said, the summer is great because I make a lot of money, and it's a lot of people around, but in the winter all the tourists go home. And she said then it gets really desolate. And I thought, well, that's interesting, because what if I took an already depressed person like Felicity, who's also dealing with losing her father a decade earlier, so she's feeling down anyway, but then you put her in this deserted resort town in the winter, and she's not making any money, she's playing to empty houses. And I said, how would that, make her feel? What would happen? Would she meet any friends? Who would she hang out with? How would she overcome her depression? Would she have relationships? Would she want to be in any kind of relationships with men? And all the questions are answered in the book. People ask me that question all the time. I say no, it's not autobiographical. It's true that I also am a singer-songwriter. I play piano like Felicity does, but the story is not about me, it's a fiction book. I never had any of the relationships that are in the book that I write about. I made all that stuff up. But there are two instances where I'd say it's autobiographical. Number one is the songs, because I actually use a song that I wrote that Felicity plays in a jazz bar. I write out all the lyrics. I reenact it for her, but I use my own song. So she actually sings a song that I wrote. And I also use one of my father's songs. He was a singer-songwriter in the 60s, and after he passed away, I actually found a song in his drawer. This is one of the songs that I didn't find any music to. I just found the lyrics, and what I did was, I used each section to introduce what happens to Felicity. It's like there's 4 different sections of the book, and I used 4 different verses plus when you're with me, what a happy feeling. I use that to introduce different sections of the book. So that makes it kind of autobiographical. And number 2, the other thing that I did was when Felicity's own father gets sick, I describe his illness and everything he goes through, and that's straight out of my own life. But that was it. Everything else is a work of fiction. Bliss, 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 from morning until night, singing, singing, singing. Though I double my dose of sedatives, it is no use. I'm dancing inside myself with a new bliss. That's a quote from one of my favorite pieces of literature. It's actually a diary, but it could be literature because it's so good. All the diaries of Anais Nin. This was probably my first favorite, and as you can tell, because it's in 2 pieces now. So that's where I got that quote that I just read. It actually is the beginning of the quote, and then I left out a big section in the end of the quote. But Bliss, Bliss, Bliss was the name of my title, and I got it from a quote that's in this book from Anais Nin. So she's a big literary influence for me. I love these diaries. I also love Banana Yoshimoto. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm obsessed with this writer. She's a Japanese novelist. This book in particular was my favorite. It's called Kitchen. And when I read it, I actually said to myself, I wish I could write a book that just made me feel the same way. Not use the same characters or anything, but I just want to feel the way I felt. And that's what I tried to do with Bliss. She writes in very simple language, but then she has a very deep meaning underneath and a very deep theme, so it's sort of deceptively simple, and that's what I hope that's my aspiration to do with my own books. Another big influence is this book, Keep the Aspidistra Flying by George Orwell. Actually says right here, it's the inspiration behind the movie A Merry War starring Helena Bonham Carter. I actually caught some of the end of this movie one time, and I said, and the ending was bizarre because it was, you'd call it bittersweet, but yet it was actually not happy, not sad. And you didn't know what to make of it because you said, wait, am I happy or am I sad? And I said, who on earth could have written an ending like that? And then at the end it showed George Orwell, so then it all made sense because it was made so it was like a master had actually written the book. And you know, he's of 1984 fame. And this book, Keep the Aspidistra Flying, is also about a struggling artist similar to Felicity who's broke during the whole book. So it's actually very much inspirational for my book. And actually, you know, I watched a lot of films, a lot of TV growing up, and I think that influenced my dialogue when I write my books. And I also, whenever I write a novel, I see it unfold as a film would. I see everything visually. And so films are a big influence. And my last literary influence is actually tea. Drinking tea. I know it's not an actual book or anything, but tea is very symbolic in my Bliss, Bliss, Bliss book. So that was my other literary influence. Who is the mystery man on the cover? It looks kind of like a vintage photo. Well, it is a mystery. So if you read the book, by the time you finish it, by the time you get to the end, that question will most likely be answered. I spent the day just lolling around. He was coming over in the evening. When I knew it would be soon, I brushed my hair and waited by the window. It was dusk again, and I had something to look forward to. It was so beautiful outside. I thought of my father and how I was 26. I thought of how many more evenings the sun would go down for him when he was only 26. How many more evenings of calm he would still enjoy and be able to feel relaxed, his world still okay. Usually I can find things to fill up the void he left without even thinking about it, but sometimes it hits me. I can't find anything to fill it up, and I realize there will never be anything at all that can exactly fill its place. That's when all I can do is go and get a cup of tea. I was in the kitchen fixing one when I heard the knock at the door. I had been so surprised when I received his phone call last night. We had talked so much yesterday, so honestly and openly. I was foolish to not have included him in my plans, to have not believed that maybe he really would want to go. It was true, he had become quite settled in Ocean City, and maybe he thought he would never leave. Or maybe I just figured that. To just drop everything and go with me? Would it last? Would we make it? I can't believe I ever even once thought I could forget him and leave him behind. It was true, we do have soulmates, and mine was knocking at my door.